Also, James, can you imagine if that had been in America?
I can't even. I mean, it wouldn't happen because I would never.
And James joins us live from Guantanamo Bay. How are you doing? This is my one phone call. I've used it for PULP Kitchen.
Call my mother. So I have a new good bit of advice for people who are traveling and flying.
Okay.
Don't bring a knife through security at Heathrow Terminal 5.
James, how have you got to 2022 and don't know that?
Well,
that
it wasn't intentional, but it happened.
You brought a knife?
It was an experience. Well, I had a Leatherman multi-tool, which has pliers on it and a locking blade, and I had it in my bag the day before, which I used on a shoot. So like rigging and tightening, like lighting equipment. And you know, I've got a flight the next day, and I'm like, that bag's good. I know what's in that bag. That's going straight on there. And it was in like one of the top flaps,
and
so
you
it's
don't
not
normally
visible.
take it.
And I would never, obviously, I know you don't bring a knife into Heathrow. So anyway, I turn up and I'm there with other people for work, and we're flying, we're going there for a job. And my bag always, because I take on this Pelly case with me. It's like a hard Pelly case that looks like it has camera equipment, and it always needs to be looked at through security. It always gets taken aside, and they have to look at it and then they, do the thing. So it got taken aside, and I'm like, oh, okay, fine, whatever. And the guy opens it. I'm like, oh, it's camera equipment. He's like, okay. And then he just pulls out this Leatherman multi-tool, which has like a 3-inch locking blade. And he's just, and in my heart just sinks, and I go, oh my God. And he goes, right, okay, so this is a knife. And I'm like, yes, it is. I'm so sorry. It was an accident. I'm here for work. This is equipment. I was using it professionally in a studio yesterday. He was like, yeah, mate, okay. So you have committed a crime, okay? So you are at Heathrow and you have brought a locking blade, which is a criminal offence. I'm just going to let you know that now. And I was like, yes, I'm so aware. I'm so sorry. What happened? He's like, okay, right. So what I do have to do now, I do have to inform the police, right? Look, what's going to happen is going to happen. If you just stay there, mate, the best thing for you to do right now is to not move, right? Just don't move. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. So I'm going to call them. They're going to come and speak to you. And I was like thinking, I said to him, like, level with me, like, how much trouble am I in here? Because like I was thinking, I'm here with work people, like, am I not getting on the plane? Is this really bad? And he was like, I mean, look, mate, I don't know. Like, this does happen, but you did bring a knife to Heathrow Terminal 5, right? And I'm like, yes, I know. I'm so sorry.
Also, Terminal 5 is very visible, the security bit, isn't
yes.
it? It's
Yeah.
Lots
it's really open.
Yeah. Anyway.
This is security
Everyone's
gets.
looking, I'm seeing, gawking at you.
Everyone's looking. And you know, the people I'm going with are both in hysterics and also slightly concerned because I now have to wait for the police. And the police come.
How long did the police take to come?
Oh, well, they took about 10 minutes.
That's an agonising.
It was agonising because I didn't know if I'd really cocked up and like lost myself the job, or they'd take so long that I'd miss my flight. And so eventually these two, like the guy was like, all right, I'm going to take your passport, all right? So I need you to just stay here. The police are going to come, all right? And he bless him, he was like, he was sort of reassuring me, but also was making no promises that I was going to be.
That voice you get is like it's both like reassuring and terrifying.
Yeah, he was like, right. I mean, like he'd seen it before, but it was like, it's not good. The way he's very simply like, you have brought a knife to Heathrow Terminal 5, which is a criminal offence. I was like, I'm so aware it is. I said sorry like a million times, and then so eventually these two policewomen came, and. I swear to God, a good cop, bad cop routine. If there was ever a good cop, bad cop routine, this was it. So there was one with who was brunette, bad cop, and the other one who was blonde, like super good cop. So the brunette comes up to me. She's like, okay, I'm just going to get you to talk over here. So what I need to let you know, okay, is that you have brought a locking blade into Heathrow Terminal 5. Okay, that is a criminal offence at this. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And I explained that I had it, it really helped that it was in a bag, not on my person, with like a reason for justifying it. And that like I explained I'd been working yesterday and that was the reason I was in my bag. And that's probably what saved me from being arrested. And she was like, okay, so at this point, we have two options. They're very like direct and matter of fact.
They've
like,
learned the script.
Oh, completely. Oh, and they're recording me
like
on their little thing.
Yeah.
At this stage, we have two options. Okay, we can place you under an arrest, okay, in which case we'll talk to you in another room. Or at this stage, I need to call my employer who's going to assess the situation. And I was like, I'm so sorry. I kept explaining. And then the woman who was blonde kept looking at me being like, you'll be fine. She's like, it's fine. And then like she went away. The brunette one went to go speak to someone on the phone being like, this guy is what happened. And I said to the blonde woman, I was like, how bad is it? And she was like, oh, just don't do it again. And I was like, does this happen a lot? She was like, every day. People just forget every single day. And she was so reassuring. And then the brunette woman came back, but right, I'm just going to hear back. If it's a no, I am going to have to place you under arrest. So I need you to stay here. So I got so much like, this is over. Yeah. You're never flying to the States again. Yeah. You're going to have a criminal record. The other one being like, oh, it's just a formality. Yeah. It's a formality. They just need to make a call. You're fine. I mean, look, don't do it again. You are aware it's a crime. I was like, I know. I am so sorry. And all I had to do was just sign like loads of paperwork that I acknowledged what I'd done was wrong, and that I understood it, and that like I had it. Because the rule on carrying a locking blade in the UK is you can't unless you have a good reason to do so, or you're in a controlled like studio environment, or if you're on the street, you're like you're obviously like occupationally involved in what you're doing. You can't just like have it on you, and then even if it's in a bag, like you have to have a really good reason, and then obviously just like in an airport, you never do that.
Yeah, no.
But I was then obviously the butt of every joke that trip. Be like, oh, James, you got your knife on you, coming on to everywhere.
I would have loved it if whilst you were waiting for them to make this phone call, that behind you, people were taking through Kalashnikovs and swords. Just like, yeah, come on, dude. Yeah. This guy's got a bazooka, no problem.
And then like people were taking pictures of me with the two policemen, just like begging them not to take me away. And then I had other people who weren't involved in the shoot who had seen pictures of me groveling with the police, like, oh mate, I hear you're in trouble.
No.
It just circulated. And a bit of advice for you: don't bring a knife,
James,
through security. But I was so embarrassed.
You knew that was bad, but you forgot.
Of course, I knew it was that.
It's an honest mistake. But wow, I mean,
apparently it happens a lot.
You're going to be part of a training exercise now. There'll be videos of you. Right, okay,
I'm so sorry.
All right,
I'm
class,
so sorry.
You can see here. What did I say to the gentleman?
Yeah.
Right, the 3 S's. Secure, safety, stability.
The gentleman acknowledged what we said.
Yeah.
Right, and after that, he was able to clearly progress. But they're so. You do get this sort of like tone and intonation. Like, this is what's happened. This is what you've done.
Yeah.
I have 2 options.
Yeah, but isn't it? It's an exercise in clear communication.
Oh, God.
Because it's like I'm presenting you with every single fact. There's no black. It's only black and white. There's no grey area that you could get confused about. You have to know what's going on. Also, James, can you imagine if that had been in America?
I can't even. I mean, it wouldn't happen because I would never.
And James joins us live from Guantanamo Bay. How are you doing? This is my one phone call. I've used it for PULP Kitchen.
Call my mother. No, I can't.
No, James, I need to get your thoughts on the Crown.
Especially as like a non-American citizen, I can't even. I'd have been in a room. They didn't take. I thought I was wondering, am I going in the room? They're going to get like my year 8 geography test.
That's where they're still mopping up the last guy.
Yeah, a guy's just there like, oh, please let me go. No, I was worried they'd have like my year 8 geography test there. Be like, how come you didn't revise? For that, and then you bring a knife to Terminal 5.
Just got your year 8 geography test here. You don't know the capital of the United States, but you do know the capital of Lebanon. Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
I have here in your year 2 playground report that you pulled Stacey's hair. Can we just unpack that, please?
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. Like smoking in my face.
Yeah.
Listen, you got nothing.
You try and do the oh my God, the basic instinct leg cross to try and charm them. So that doesn't work with us, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Okay. But you are wearing jeans.
Such different energy from the 2 of them. It was really quite. One of them was like, you might get arrested, and the other one was like,
I feel like a concerned parent now. That like, you're going to be like, George, I'm really sorry. I think I messed up. Do you need me to come pick you up? Right, what terminal are you at?
Yeah.
I'll be right there. Yeah. Okay, tell them not to worry.
And then I told one of the guys who was traveling with me, to be like, can you just stand near me? Well, this is while we were waiting for the police, and just like be associated with me in the sense that I'm not like a lone male traveler. Like, I'm here with people. It just gives me a bit of, cred. And he was like, yeah, I'll stay with you. Like, he was filming or whatever. But that's my advice.
Wow.
For you.
What's that? That's a story of hell. I feel my heart's beating fast.
Yeah.
Just listen to that.
So, George, I think a show that you and I regard as one of the better shows on Netflix would be The Crown. Mm-hmm. And I think I remember years ago very clearly having a conversation with you when season 1 of The Crown was out. I remember I was on a bus, and I remember we were just catching up and talking about things that we were watching. And I remember us both being really excited by season 1 of The Crown, because I think I was definitely not optimistic about the marketing.
Agreed.
And I saw the poster on the bus, and I remember thinking, oh, I just feel like this is going to be Downton Abbey, but not. I feel
Royalist
like
propaganda. Yeah.
Royalist propaganda, definitely. I thought maybe all of its moves are going to be very telegraphed. It's going to just sort of tell me every way I need to feel. It will never exist in a grey area. And I remember like flicking it on apprehensively on Netflix and being like, whoa, I'm loving this history lesson. The performances are great. It looks like one of the best shows I've ever seen. I remember catching up with you talking about John Lithgow as Winston Churchill and like Claire Foy, who was brand new to me, just like absolutely killing it, and Matt Smith, who we already loved. And we've sort of been watching the show ever since, and it's had 2 recastings now, because every 2 seasons the show changes its central cast and it flips through the generations. And we've now just started season 5 of The Crown, and Netflix very kindly gave us early access to the show so that we could have a watch of the first 2 episodes to talk about for you today. We are going to the premiere for The Crown season 5 tomorrow, but by the time you listen to this, it would have been yesterday. So go to at pulpkitchenpodcast.com to see all of that stuff of how we were there. But yeah, season 5. So we've got a new cast this time.
Yes.
Imelda Staunton is playing the Queen. We've got Jonathan Pryce as Philip. We've got Dominic West as Charles. Elizabeth Debicki as Diana. There's a couple others that
Leslie
I probably
Manville
missed out.
as Margaret.
Yes. And yeah, we've got a new refresh.
Johnny
a new
Lee Miller
cast
as John Major.
As John Major, which I thought was quite interesting. But yeah, a new cast with the same roles. We've watched 2 episodes. This will be a spoiler-free, more of a first impressions than a full review. We'll probably catch up in a few weeks when we've watched it through. But how are you feeling about not just the episode, but the new little refresh that we've got?
Yeah, well, it's interesting when you talk about it, because it's like it is something that you and I look forward to.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth saying that, you know, Netflix, as you said, were very kind, let us have early access. You and I could, if we had wanted to, have watched the whole thing. But you and I both respect the show enough and the way that we consume content not to just inhale this.
Sip it like a wine.
Absolutely. You know, you wait 2 years for a season of The Crown, and then you get sort of 2 years on, 2 years off.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and you know there hasn't been a series since 2020, and we're just, when it comes around, you want to enjoy it and savor it, and so we did. And I think as soon as you watch it, you think, right, we're back into it. Here we go with big production value,
Brooding music,
incredible visuals, and
silhouetted, cold cinematography.
Yeah. One of the first things that struck me was just like they have really they are firing on all cylinders with the acting talent they've got together. It's interesting that you said that, you know, Claire Foy was new to you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd seen Claire Foy in a couple of things, but this was, I think, you're right, the show that brought her to a worldwide attention. And she was absolutely fantastic. And even with Olivia Colman, like, okay, Olivia Colman had just won an Oscar when she was in The Crown, but like Tobias Menzies was known to a TV audience, and this kind of helped him get wider. But with this one, it's like everyone knows Imelda Staunton.
Yep.
Absolutely right for the role. Everyone knows Jonathan Pryce.
Dominic West has been around for ages doing good stuff.
You know, and Elizabeth Debicki is new, but she's been in films. And I noticed in the first episode in particular that
TV veteran Jonathan Pryce as well, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And you're just like, here is this talent, and straight away Dominic West is just into that role and really sinking his teeth into it, which I love. It's not like, you know, the joy of watching Josh O'Connor as Charles was watching this new emerging actor sort of fill out this role before our eyes. This is a different pleasure. It's watching an actor, a thespian who we know and value, and we know he can do a good job, turn up, be like, that's the script? Okay, here we go. I'm Charles, and it's great. I think Jonathan Pryce is really interesting because he's a great actor. And I love comparing the 2 all the 3 now portrayals of the same character, because Tobias Menzies did a very good job.
I really liked him, yeah.
And I think you and I agree that he was like the standout highlight of those 2 seasons, more so than Olivia Colman, who I think
sort of just
my mother did. Yes. What?
Well, I think he should be dragged out and shot.
Bloody hell out of here.
Bloody disgrace.
Whereas Jonathan Pryce is doing a slightly different interpretation. Jonathan Pryce sounds still like Jonathan Pryce, right? There's no denying it. He's not doing it. He can't get it as razor sharp to accuracy as Tobias Menzies did. But what Jonathan Pryce does have is that steely focus that Philip had, and you immediately believe him, even though he sounds different and looks different. Imelda Staunton just gets it from the get-go. Her voice, her mannerisms, everything. And look, again, I don't want to retread over this and be too negative, but we were disappointed with Olivia Colman. I know we've said that. And as soon as Imelda Staunton started to speak, I realised what had been lacking the past 2 seasons. I'm really sorry to say that.
And not just, I say, from a performance standpoint, but I also think from what they gave the Queen in seasons 3 and 4 to do, I felt like didn't necessarily give Olivia Colman the best shot of it. I'm almost like again, as soon as Imelda Staunton started, I was like, wow, like she has the same physical tics and mannerisms as not just Olivia Colman, but Claire Foy. The way that she goes, oh, and like sort of adjusts herself and like turning of head. I'm like, that is as true as it's been for 4 seasons. And I just feel like that's really good.
Yeah.
And I think one of the interesting dynamics that Philip's had in this show is he's always had his wife, the Queen, and he's always been this slightly softer, takes himself less seriously. Oh, but you can talk to me. I'll have a word. He's always sort of been that mediator, and I think that's still, at least from the first 2 episodes, he's still enjoying that cheeky, I'm very important, but I'm not that serious kind of character, and that's interesting that he's doing that as well. But the voice thing is definitely a point. It's completely off from Tobias Menzies.
It's Jonathan Pryce's voice, but it's fine. It's like, well, you pay a price for getting Jonathan Pryce, and maybe that's it. Hey. So anyway, that was one of the first things that struck me. It's like, you've got a massive amount of acting talent there. Elizabeth Debicki is just so magnetic as Diana. Just completely gets it, completely
Those
absorbs
eyes,
it.
The wide eyes,
the
pouting.
Voice. Sorry, there's me trying to mimic her. But gosh, you're going to be
terrible. Film it now.
And it's just so watchable. It's really interesting in the first episode as well is how they use the character of Diana to, as Diana did in real life, to throw the rest of the royal family into like sharp contrast. Yeah. And, she's this light, can be very funny, very aloof figure against this stern rigidness. And like, the way they present Diana and Charles, you could not get 2 more opposite people, which is obviously a source of great drama and tension. I think, just finishing talking about the acting talent, what really struck out for me was Johnny Lee Miller as John Major. Yeah. Because going into this season, I thought, okay, look, Johnny Lee Miller is a handsome leading man, really, isn't he? He's John Major.
You never think of him as like stuffy old Tory.
No, John Major, who is famous for having a voice a bit like this, who's still around and still features in commentary, and famously on Spitting Image was depicted in black and white for being so boring, right? He was just like, oh, hello, nice peas, Norm, my name's John Major. So the idea
you know what John Major looks like. Exactly. He's got those big 90s, late 80s glasses.
So to have Johnny Lee Miller, sick boy from Trainspotting.
Kind of edgy and cool, and
it was not.
Went out with Angelina Jolie,
right? Exactly,
cool actor.
But then, lo and behold, he really gets it. Similar to Jonathan Pryce, does not sound like John Major, does not look like John Major, but brings the calm steadiness and focus that John Major has.
Experienced politician,
who understands is quiet.
There's a great scene, which I won't spoil, but where Charles basically calls to have a meeting with Prime Minister John Major, and he invites him in, and Charles is very desperately looking to get an indication of how John Major feels about a certain situation. And Johnny Lee Mills as John Major does this wonderful thing where he does absolutely nothing, but everything that's going on inside his head, and it's perfectly communicated between the 2 characters. And I was like, I've not seen this actor do anything like this, and it's working, and I believe it.
Yeah, you're right. I've not seen Johnny Lee Miller do something like this. And then what's great in terms of like scene construction is that John Major, the character, then has almost the exact same another audience straight after that scene with the Queen, where he has to do the exact same thing about a different issue.
Yep.
Really, really smart.
I just want to pick up on something you said about Diana, which is that in the last 2 years we've had 3 different actors play very big interpretations of Diana. We've had what was her name? Emma Corrin, Kristen Stewart, and now Elizabeth Debicki. And I thought maybe I would be slightly fatigued at another Spider-Man, another Diana. Like, really, we doing another one? And I would just say, like, I was immediately in. I never felt like it was so different to what I'd had with Spencer or Emma Corrin. And she's very good. She's very, very good.
And I feel like this is the role she's been kind of building towards. She's always been incredibly striking. Whatever. I mean, she's 6'3". She's tall, which is my height. And even they don't really hide the fact that how tall Elizabeth Debicki is. I mean, Diana was tall, but like not 6'3".
No, yeah.
And I first saw her in Great Gatsby. I think most people saw a breakout out of Jordan Baker in there.
Gatsby?
It all makes sense, right? And then she's like a bit part in Everest, and then she's in Widows, and the Night Manager, Tenet. I felt so sorry for her in Tenet because she has to do that awful scene where they're on the high-speed yacht racing and they're trying to do a massive amount of dialogue, and it's like
Russia in a car, like on the other side, like this.
And I'm like,
that's
what?
Such a confusing scene. It's such a great action scene. I know it's just different conversation, but
anyway. But yeah. So I know I've just talked about the great acting talent, but what are your initial takeaways?
I think what made me feel that warm, fuzzy feeling of, ooh, I'm back in the crown, is that really great familiar territory of how much it uses silhouette and profile as a theme and a motif to carry you through this whole series. And it's something you pick up on early on, and then you realize how much more important it is that you recognize these people by their silhouette. And I think the themes of this series so far, at least in the first 2 episodes, is about being old, being irrelevant. The royal family was under incredible scrutiny in the 1990s. The press was becoming a completely different beast. The Queen was obviously getting older and therefore by byproduct becoming less out of touch with society. But it becomes all about how the monarchy is always resilient to change. And Diana, physically and the way she moves and the way she talks is different to what the monarchy represents. And they're so good at contrasting those two things and putting it on screen. And I'm like, it's a little bit on the nose, I'll say, but I'm like, it's good. It's good stuff. It's exactly what you want from your 90s interpretation of the royal family in this era.
Yeah, sorry, no.
That's it, no, go on.
No, I was just going to say that I think there is, depending on how you feel about it, I think you could either, some might find it melodramatic or some might just find it interesting, like dramatically.
Yeah.
What I got a clear sense of is that in other seasons of The Crown, you have a very much episodic structure where you will have a slight running theme, but then you will have a breakaway about one particular subject.
They side off a bit.
A side episode, and those are usually very interesting episodes of The Crown. I got the impression from the first 2 episodes that it was like, no, this is clearly about one thing, which is that the royal family is in a very bad state in the 1990s, where it's we're on the brink of war and we're in deep, deep crisis wherever you look. And that's flagged in the first episode, and obviously there's a bit in the trailer, which is in the first episode where John Major says, it just feels like it's all about to erupt. And it's like, yes, you do get this very palpable sense that something bad is going to happen.
And the audience knows what's about to happen, so that which obviously helps that.
Speaking of that, though, I mean, the thing is with Diana is that I don't know whether it's probably partly intentional, but I don't want to call it outright discomfort, but it's just everything with Princess Diana in it is just so sad. It's just it's actually quite uncomfortable to watch. And I remember this with the last season is that you're basically, I mean, obviously this is a character. I mean, there's this constant debate about the Crown, about what's real and what's like you're watching this character, okay, her life slowly being ruined before her eyes. And it is like, no pun intended, but it is like watching a car crash in slow motion. You're watching someone's life slowly be destroyed and heading towards a conclusion where we all know where it goes.
For entertainment.
Yeah.
Feels kind of off.
I know that's the thing, and it's like, there are clearly noble intentions in what they're trying to show from her side of the story, which is totally right. But as an audience member, you watch and you think, this is just, we all know where this is going. And
So like, I felt that when we were in season 1 or even 2, it was 50s and 60s, which is so far removed from where we are, obviously. And when I'm watching a scene between Claire Foy, who's young, and Matt Smith, who's young, having a big argument as Philip and Elizabeth, and I'm like, yeah, okay, but it doesn't really affect me as much that this is all just make-believe, because I'm visually in that character's world, and less so like, this is really what happened, this is the real thing, which the show has never been telling you this is exactly what it's done. But what the show has done, which I've always appreciated, is it will give you a moment in history, and sometimes it will at the end give you a black screen with a blurb, a fact of what happened, which I always kind of enjoy because it does so well with its history. And I have been worried that the closer we get to modern day, the more I'm going to feel a little bit iffy about the stories. And that's not because I'm defensive or critical of anyone. I just, like, in terms of whether or not I go, that probably didn't happen, I'm starting to question it more. And the casting of Dominic West as Charles I find is an interesting one. For me, Dominic West is like typecast as sort of a scumbag, bad guy, villain, like slightly nasty. Like, he does a lot of those kind of roles, and he's really good at it. And they've immediately, I'm not saying the last portrayal of Charles was in any way overly positive, but I do feel like he's getting a very hard time, at least from these 2 episodes. Whether or not that's right or wrong is completely up to you, but I'm like, it's more of an interpretation of a person who's alive, who's still now king, who still sort of speaks publicly for themselves. Whereas Diana has passed away and is almost like she's frozen in her own time capsule. I start to feel more weird about the things that are said. Not because I'm protective over Charles, just because of that element of it.
But this brings us on to a wider point, which is, actually, can you ever look at this show? And this is my slightly gnawing feeling, is, can you ever look at this show as one whole cohesive thing? Because you're right, there is a difference between watching the earlier seasons and a difference now. I mean, the difference now, the test is to ask your parents what they think. Because you and I, yes, it's getting closer to the truth, and getting closer to the present day, and getting closer to people in it still being alive and in our present world. And we watch it with a degree of, okay, this is getting closer, but we can approach it with an element of objectivity in the sense that, like, well,
it's a drama.
If we were born then, we'd be very, very young. Let's just take a step back, But obviously for our parents, it's vivid to them. Like the events that are going to happen in this season are incredibly vivid, and it is their lifetime. So how they feel about it, and I know I haven't even seen the end of these, but I know what this is building up to from how the trailer builds up, and obviously what was in the news last year. If anyone will probably know what I'm talking about, but people have a reaction to how they feel about that particular event. I think that. But just back to what I was saying about how you can view these things as a whole product. It's an interesting exercise to take a 6-season show, which is what it will be, and change it 3 times. Twice rather. Have 3 different casts. And how does that work? Because as we were just saying, Tobias Menzies and Jonathan Pryce's interpretation, do they overlap? How much they overlap? Do they overlap much? Princess Margaret, between Leslie Manville, Helena Bonham Carter, and Vanessa Kirby.
So yeah,
they don't look like each other. Do they act like each other? Or are you actually watching 3 different shows? And also, The Crown. Can you also split it down the middle and say, as soon as it becomes about Diana and that whole chapter, it just takes a different turn, and that's just the nature of the story. The first 3 seasons are historical, devoid of kind of personal conflict in the sense that, a domestic personal conflict, and we can enjoy that from a historical point of view. But as soon as Diana arrives on the scene, which is a figure who is incredibly popular, polarizing, people have a lot of opinions about this figure, the story is not the same. It's not a case of this is history. It's a case of how do you emotionally feel about this very, very famous figure in history? Right?
Whereas how many people alive today are upset about the abdication of the Duke of Windsor?
Exactly.
Like, I know people will be, but people aren't like, oh God, I remember.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
No one.
Where were you?
Yeah, where were you
when
you found out when he abdicated the throne to King George VI? Like, no one talks about that. Whereas we talk about, like, news presenters will talk about, I remember the flowers, I remember the morning, Queen didn't say anything.
And for that reason why we never want them. You and I have talked about, I don't want them to go too close to the present because that story is still being written.
Very much so. It's my problem with This England, which I watched recently about COVID in 2020, which I just felt was far too soon.
Sorry, the event, I think I can say this because I loosely... The Bashir interview, which, this is the thing, that happened 26 years ago, but new information came out about that last year, which is like revelatory, actually, and completely changed the way people saw that. And I'm hoping that when this features in The Crown, that's been written after that to include that. I would think it'd be very worrying if they've included the Bashir interview.
We're trying not to give away too many plot points about what's happened.
But we haven't seen it.
Obviously, we haven't finished it, and it's based on history, so we know what happens. But I don't want to sort of ruin the Crown's depiction of it. Yeah, because that's
also interesting. Sorry, also interesting is that you and I probably know the tentpoles of what happens to the royal family in the 90s and the history. But but that's what I'm saying about our parents. They will know everything that happened in it. Yeah, and they'll have their own opinion on that as a result. Whereas we're just taking it kind of, I don't know. And sorry, one more thing as well is that you mentioned that scene between John Major and Prince Charles in the first episode, which John Major recently, a couple of weeks, heard about and came out and said it's absolutely preposterous. And since then, by the way, Tony Blair has also come out and said they're taking huge liberties. It's absolute nonsense. And it did get me thinking, right? Because the scene you're talking about, and people see this in the first episode, between Charles and John Major, when Prince Charles, as you say, is trying to get John Major's opinion on a very particular issue, it's a very bold conversation that they're having. And I did think, are we letting this off the hook because it's prestige drama? Because if that scene had worse dialogue...
This was season 1 of the show, would you be more upset?
No, you wouldn't. But my point is, if that scene had worse dialogue, would we
Probably.
My point is it actually, could you argue, to put it crudely, just peddling bullshit under the guise of prestige television, masquerading under high budget, but actually making very bold claims that it can't substantiate?
This is why it's sensitive.
I don't know. It's a huge debate.
It's entertainment. You've got to think, like, if you're the actor for... if you're Dominic West playing Prince Charles, you've got to think, okay, I am a prince of the longest standing monarch, maybe not at that time yet, I don't know. But he's like, he is a prince in waiting. He will have opinions. He will be restless. this is who the character is.
Yeah.
And someone writing a narrative for who this person is will be like, well, that's what I'm going to interpret. No one knows the private conversations. And I think, well, The Crown has always done well is it's never really retold you things you already know. It's always sought to show you the conversations that happen behind closed doors that you never would have heard. And I think in order to do that, you have to make some shit up, which probably never, ever happened.
I think it's almost a comment on actually, though, how close the viewing public and the British public still are to the royal family. Because if the British public didn't care, they wouldn't be outraged. And the fact is, like, there is, some people getting their pearl clutching because they...
And the Queen only very recently passed away, so
sure, exactly.
It's obviously still a thing for a lot of people.
But getting back to the actual content of the show,
is it good?
Back to it. So like, based on the first two episodes, I'm really excited. I particularly the second episode really had a lot of tension in it, and I thought this is really building something dramatic.
Back into my very good warm Crown territory.
Has a classic thing of the episode being about something, but really it's about something else.
Yeah.
So there's this whole subplot in the second episode, not a spoiler, about Prince Philip and carriage riding, which could be about carriage riding, but it could also be about so much more.
Metaphor for something else.
By the way, great to see Natasha McKellen in it, who people will know from The Truman Show and Solaris.
Yeah. Most
big
famous
actress.
eyes ever. Yeah.
Fantastic expressive face. And was around the late 90s, early noughties, then kind of went away for a bit, came back and designated survivor, and I'm just like, great to see you still around. Good on you.
There are, you mentioned before about it has its mainline story and then sometimes it veers off and comes back in. I feel like, there have been a couple of really great ones in The Crown. I think about, Philip's time at Gordonston and how that framed him, and, obviously everything with the Duke of Windsor I thought was brilliant. But there are a couple of things I think of that I go, I don't know, I feel like there's a little bit of a sidestep, a little bit of waffle.
In this new one?
No, like in previous times, we're like, okay, I didn't really need that sidestep. And I wonder how much this is going to also veer off considering the trajectory it's heading to. Because it's 10 episodes still. Yeah. It's a lot of episodes to depict. They're going to do what? 89 to 97?
I don't think they're going to 97.
Oh.
I think the thing that happens in 97
is next season.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah, because Blair... It's all just
Blair's not in this yet.
I think.
It's Annus Horribilis this season.
This season.
Fine.
Yeah. But I think I don't know.
By
the time people are listening to this, they probably watch more episodes than we have.
Yes.
But the thing is, I think on the whole, I think if you like The Crown, welcome back. You'll enjoy it. The fact is, the show has just morphed and changed, and you're going to get perhaps less history lessons, but more entertaining drama, as opposed to actual educational. Oh, that was a really interesting thing I didn't know about the 1950s and 60s period of the Queen's reign, right?
It's the character. Maybe think of it. It's just the character of Charles and Diana. It's not them.
Yeah, and it's the acting that people put into it. It's the production design. It's the value.
Beautiful.
Just enjoy. I mean.
I'm pretty sure they use natural light for so much of it. If they're not, it's just really naturalistic lighting that looks fantastic.
When we go to the premiere, which weirdly again would have been yesterday, we're watching the first episode again.
Follow us on Instagram.
Right? But I'm absolutely fine with that because every time I watch an episode of The Crown, like we said, they've taken so long to come to you and produce. You want to watch them twice. They're so detailed. And there have been a couple of Crown episodes I've gone back and watched again because so much work goes into them. Anyway, guys, let us know your thoughts.
I'd love to hear thoughts
on The Crown. Do you agree or disagree with what we've said? Are you excited? Have you never watched it? I know some people who just dive in at like season 4, don't care about the previous ones.
And a lot of people I've spoken to are like, really? The Crown? And I'm like, no, give it a chance, please. It's really good. It's not what you think. So if you haven't given it a go, this is my recommendation to start from season 1. You got 4. Oh, sorry, you got 4. Yeah, you got 4 really good seasons of TV to watch. 5 now.
Yeah, and let us know.
hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com if you want to send us your thoughts, your questions, your concerns. There you go. Yeah. I hope we enjoyed the premiere.
I hope we did as well. Did we look happy? Who knows? It's weird doing this time stuff.
Yeah.
James, let's hear from our lovely listeners.
I love our listeners.
Correspondence they've been sending in this week.
If you want to send us an email, you can send us your thoughts, your questions, your concerns to hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. Just like Claire did. Claire writes in and she says, Dear James and George, I've been listening to you guys for a couple of months now, brackets, insert obligatory I discovered you guys on TikTok comment. And I'm always thrilled when I notice a new episode has been dropped.
Yay.
You've been amazing company on my commute, as well as a treasured distraction from laborious Excel-based work tasks. You click on those boxes.
You can do it. Multiply those cells.
My husband and I found out last week that we are expecting our first child.
Oh.
Still, of course, very early days, but we are so excited nevertheless. We both love films, with horror being our favourite genre. This is a love we're hoping to share with our children, but of course we are fairly limited in what we can show them, with many of our favourites likely to be held off until they are much older, which begs the question, which gateway horror films did you enjoy growing up? And are there any more recent ones that you can recommend to us? Beetlejuice is one of my favourites when I was younger, although some scenes did freak me out. The Sixth Sense was also played often in my family home and is now one of my absolute favourites, to the extent we're considering the name Cole if we have a boy.
I like that.
Love you both. Keep up the good work and hope you have a good Halloween. Many thanks, Claire.
Well, Claire, first of all, a big congratulations to you on your news. When we can't wait to welcome the youngest Pulp Kitchen listener to the world.
As soon as they're born, just plops right around that mate's head.
Great question. So, James, you need to oil these
I know, it's
hinges.
really creaky. I'm very
Awful.
sorry. I need some WD-40 on there.
Anyway, great question about gateway horror. Look, I'm not a
horror.
horror person to ask, but I will say this. I did try and watch The Shining when I was 7. Have we talked about this?
I think you did.
You know, when I bugged my parents for ages, I want to watch The Shining, and they're like,
Terrible
no.
idea.
And then eventually I just wore them down, and I found it in the TV guide. I was like, it's on Sky Movies. And they're like, all right, well, and they were like, okay, we'll watch it then. And they knew, they could see, they're like, okay, you want to watch The Shining? We'll show you The Shining.
Yeah.
And I got like 20 minutes in, and it was the blood coming out of the elevator. It was the twins.
Awful.
And I was like, ah! But I will say that the film that really freaked me out was the Kenan and Kel movie. Which had there was a Kenan and Kel movie which to an adult when you watch it is a horror parody, right? With the haunted house, like,
this actually sounds really
but
familiar.
to a 5-year-old, it is just a horror film about the headless horseman living in a town called Rockville, and there'll be people in like this haunted house like getting like picked off one by one, and it freaked the bejesus out of me. I remember saying to my dad at one point, I was like, "Where's Rockville?" And he was like, "Huh? What do you mean? Where? I don't know. Just, it's somewhere."
Oh, it's over the road.
And I can remember that really terrifying me. Beetlejuice is a good shout though.
Yeah,
Beetlejuice is funny.
I mean, you know what film we mentioned the other day when we did the greatest film openings of all time, which is Wes Anderson's Scream. I mean, like, I don't know what age.
Wes Anderson's Scream. I'd love to see Wes Anderson's Scream.
I mean,
what's your favourite scary movie? I mean, Wes Craven's. I'd also love to see Wes Craven's Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh God, Wes Craven's Scream. Which I mean, I don't know what age you're thinking of starting, but that's a good kid teen one. And then one I will say, which is a kid's movie, but what you really freaked me out as a kid, is I want to say it's like a 1990 Roald Dahl's The Witches.
Oh, right.
And Rowan Atkinson is in it as like this sort of Basil Fawlty character. And there's a scene, which I think was in my Nightmares Forever, which if you know Roald Dahl's The Witches, when they all turn into their like true form.
With prosthetics.
And it's the most horrifying prosthetics. If just Google 1990, the Grand High Witch. It is the most awful thing you've ever seen in your life. And there's a moment where, you know, he eats the chocolate and he gets turned into a mouse. But there's this amazing part in that scene where the witches secretly have purple eyes. And there's this one moment, like, they love to hunt children, and he's in his treehouse, and this like very nice looking woman comes up to the treehouse and she's like, "Hello, would you like some chocolate?" And because his grandmother told him about witches and that they have purple eyes, she sees this purple glint in her eye, and he knows that like she's an evil witch. I haven't watched it in probably 15 years, but that really did scare me as a child. Another one, which is kind of a basic bitch answer, but Harry Potter 1, the scenes in the Forbidden Forest in Harry Potter 1, if you are young, I'm sort of like 6, 7, 8 years old, that will freak you out. When very slowly walks towards him and he's feasting on the unicorn blood, and he looks up with the fangs, and then he realizes that was Voldemort in the forest. Scary stuff.
I would also say Psycho, because Psycho, as an when the younger you are, the more horrifying and horror it is.
Yeah.
The older you are, more of a thriller it is, right? And like Psycho is a great film. Like hot take. Who knew? Psycho, great movie. Wow, amazing. But I think you can watch that. The younger you are, the more freaked out by that you'll be. Whereas,
and what an introduction to Hitchcock, right?
For that person,
yes.
I thought you were saying that was his first film, Jeff. Well, actually, I think you'll
saying like if you're going to start with. I also think 79 Alien.
Great.
Because it's slow and it's brooding and it doesn't jump scare you in the face, but it has such a wonderful crescendo to some incredible horror, and it's actually I think it's easy to watch if you're not. If you're
I would
scared
actually
of
almost say The Shining as well, actually, even though it freaked the young. But actually, think about it, The Shining isn't like
I don't know what
overly
age
scary. It's just like
imagery and ideas.
It's very unsettling. That's what it is, unsettling imagery.
I can't say what age you should start.
I don't know what age you want to scar your child at, but
there you go.
You've got a rich pickings there. By the way, you mentioned The Witches. I am so disappointed that after you banged on about the first one, that you haven't gone and watched Hocus Pocus 2.
I know. I've heard terrible things, by the way.
Yeah, I know. But you were like, Hocus Pocus. I was like, all right, put your money where your mouth is.
Do a full, you want a 15-minute review.
I want the whole thing, yeah.
So, I went to go see Hocus. It is starring... This next one is from Elliot. He writes in and says, "Hi guys."
Might sound a bit more enthusiastic.
This next one's
email.
from Elliot.
Thank
Thank you so much for writing in. He says, "Hi guys, long time watcher, second time writing in. Thank you very much.
Hello.
And of all the places I discovered you, it was from an Instagram short that I randomly popped up on my feed, and I've been following ever since.
God bless that algorithm.
What even is a TikTok?" He says, and it's not an Instagram short, it's Instagram Reel, but it's a mess right now. Who knows what they are?
Reel, yeah.
My random question to you today is about martial arts movies and whether or not you think the genre is still alive and kicking or something more belonging in the past. I sincerely miss the early noughties era of films like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon or House of the Flying Daggers. I would love to see another epic martial arts film to this scale in the modern day. The presence of actors like Jackie Chan, Chow Yun-fat and Jet Li is sorely missed in my opinion. Do you think this film genre will ever return, or has it evolved into something more in the vein of the John Wick movies, which equally are great movies, but I do miss the Asian-centric themes and world design, as well as the floaty, fluttering wire effects, as poorly as some of them may have aged. Keep up the great guys. Congrats on passing 900 subs. You'll be flying over that 1K threshold in no time at all. All the best, Elliot.
Thank you, Elliot. Good question. I don't really have an answer to that. But what I will say, I think you're right. An interesting point when he's like, oh, does the John Wick movies pick that up, in that it sort of embraces the idea of like longer takes, more physical, choreographed, bringing almost like the balletic dance-like choreography of kung fu movies, like The Raid. Like,
Raid,
I know that's not technically kung fu, but like I think you can draw a genetic link to it. But I really don't know enough about kung fu films. I haven't seen Crouching Tiger. I haven't seen House of Flying Daggers.
House of Flying Daggers is awesome.
Is it?
It's really cool. I watched that on a PSP.
Whoa!
You used to have this unique little disc format called UMDs, Universal Media Disc, which is ironic because it was not universal. It was universal. It was like a really proprietary format that I just have loads of random UMDs somewhere in my bedroom. But I watched that on a PSP, and it was something so cool about watching this film on a little handheld thing. House of Flying Daggers is awesome. I have seen Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, but I don't remember it well. I used to sometimes watch Jet Li movies on Sky when I would see them. I don't remember the names of them weirdly, but I do remember watching them and thinking they were cool, but I was quite young.
I got one for you. You want a blast from the past as well? You said PSP. How's this for a kung fu movie? Bulletproof Monk.
Yes, Bulletproof Monk with Sean William Scott.
Yeah,
I've seen that film.
And that film, I remember, because I rented that from Blockbuster.
Of course.
Like a sleepover film. Begins with like the Nazis in the Himalayas.
Oh my God, it does.
And like they're shooting, and then like he's ageless, and then they want
the Nazis have been around for ages. They never left.
And they want the MacGuffin because the MacGuffin.
And the writing goes on your back, and then you have the power.
But he tricks them, and at one point it's like noodle soup. And I think Denise Van Outen is in that movie.
Is it?
Like TV presenter Denise Van Outen.
Really?
Yeah. And then like there's like a break dancer who knows kung fu as well. It's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish.
I've seen it though.
But so have I. And I remember because the guy's a desert eagle in it, and I was like, wow.
But that was a film that would just like eternally on a Blockbuster shelf.
Yeah.
Bulletproof Monk. This next one's from Thomas, who says, "Hi fellas, hope you're doing well."
Yeah, thank you, Thomas. Hope
just wanted to start a conversation on trailers.
When someone says that like that, it's like when your boss says, "Can I just have a word?
Can we just have a little chat in the meeting room when no one else is around to hear?"
Yeah, that sounds a little bit ominous, but go on about trailers.
The golden age of the trailers is dead. I feel like I can't watch any trailer or teaser for a film now for fear of too much of the plot being revealed and the mystery being completely taken away. Some recent offenders being Don't Worry Darling and Nope off the top of my head. What's going on? All the best, Tom.
Good question, Tom. You're absolutely right. We actually did an episode quite a while ago now about our favourite trailers. Do you remember? We did that. Some great ones there. Go back and listen to it. Yeah, Don't Worry Darling showed too much. I don't remember Nope giving away too much, but the point is absolutely. I have
Marvel's
this thing.
doing a lot, giving up too much.
I have this thing where I watch a trailer once. That's it. Or try and avoid it. If I know I'm probably going to see the film, I don't need to watch the trailer. Like, I just need to know who's in it, who's it by, directed, and what's it roughly about. I could just read the synopsis. Even the written synopsis is too much.
You know what I do now when me and my girlfriend are going through Netflix to find something, the endless scroll, and you're like, let's watch a trailer. We'll watch a trailer for it.
No,
so
never, never.
I have to do this thing now where I go, I need to find out if she likes it before to the end of the trailer. So we'll start the trailer, and 10 seconds in, I'll go, do you want to watch it? Because if you're decided now, let's stop.
Yeah.
And then she never really sort of does. But I'm like, if I know, I could be like, yeah, that's fine, I'm in, or I'm not.
I know a couple of people who are like, yeah, well, should we watch this? Let's watch the trailer beforehand. I'm like, that's just going to completely kill it because that's so recent in your memory. You'll be watching that film going, oh yeah, but that was the bit in the trailer. Do you know what? Do you know what that absolutely kills is comedies?
Yeah.
You get that joke was in the trailer. That joke was in the trailer.
I think I did compliment the Black Panther 2 trailer recently for being. I thought it gave me a really good sense of what that film's about without telling me what happened. And I think that ever since that first trailer for Star Wars: The Force Awakens came out,
about in that episode,
which we talked about, I think trailers have never been the same. I think they are still ripping off not the first teaser, I mean the first trailer, sorry, where you take your theme, put a reduced piano over it, have it build in crescendo. Like, I still think everyone is trying to capture that magic. And I think, unfortunately, that has been to the detriment of a lot of movies. The Force Awakens trailer didn't reveal shit. You knew nothing about that film. And I think, we are in a bad place where they're just desperate to get you to come in and see it.
A good movie trailer, and I think we talked about this in the episode, is one that you want to watch again. You just want to watch again because it's like a video in its own way.
Go listen to our old episode. You can find it on the feed.
But children when we did that episode, James, many moons ago.
Naive. We did food. Next one is from Matthew. Hi, gents. Big fan of the podcast. You are both brilliant, and your podcast really helps keep me going when I'm working from home. Matthew,
Thank you so much.
It also made me fall back in love with cinema. It also made me fall back in. It's also made me fall back.
Can you read?
It's so small. On my email, it is literally like size 9 font. Right. I usually like to copy it onto a Word doc in size 14, but we don't have time. It's also made me fall back in love with cinema after becoming tired of it for a while. Keep up the great work. I always look forward to your latest podcast. Hey man, that happens. Don't get up. I'm a huge fan of the superhero genre. However, as I write this, I'm listening to episode 48, where your news section was filled to the brim with superhero-related news. That was last week. Go check it out. I'm growing fatigued of superhero films / content. So I was wondering, when do you think, like me, audiences will become too fatigued of the superhero genre and will start to vote with their feet and not tune in to any more of the year's hottest superhero releases? When will the superhero genre bubble burst, if it will at all? All subgenres become popular, boom, and then die off. For example, westerns, film noir, slasher horrors,
musicals,
gangster films, etc. The current superhero bubble has been popular since the early 2000s with the releases like Spider-Man, the Raimi franchise, X-Men franchise, the Nolan Batman films, and it feels like a run of nearly 20 years is longer than most genre trends. I feel superhero films should possibly be entering the end of their life cycle in cinema, where they become less commonly seen than they are now. To link back to your conversation a few weeks ago on which streaming... Actually, let's answer this before... Actually, no, I'll just finish it. To link back to your conversation a few weeks ago on which streaming service will go under first, I think the superhero genre could define what happens to major streaming services. Disney Plus will definitely not go under and cease to exist. However, it feels like it has the most to lose when / if the superhero bubble finally bursts, which I think it could give a second lease of life to Netflix, Amazon, and a couple of the others if they get some great original content similar in scale to the early MCU, which they can then grow and develop over time. What are your thoughts? Keep up the great work, fellas. Matthew, that was a lot.
A huge
but
question.
Start with the first bit.
I think I have an answer.
It's growing fatigue. Go on.
The idea of the superhero genre is going to burst. It's almost too big to burst as such right now because there are entire Marvel is an entire machine built on superhero content, right? And Disney's output is entirely built on Marvel content bringing in super. Yeah, exactly right. So. I don't see it ever bursting as such, or if it does, it's going to take a very long time. What I think is going to actually happen is that it will just diversify its content so much. It will just keep, as soon as they start to realize people are fatigued, they'll continually try and stay ahead by bringing in new directors, new voices, different characters, and just keep expanding the goalposts to try and cover as much ground. So when people can't limit it as a superhero genre. Before, when you used to say superheroes 20 years ago, it would just be people in capes, right? But now, how does Guardians of the Galaxy work next to She-Hulk, work next to...
Werewolf by Night.
Werewolf by Night, exactly. Werewolf by Night, perfectly good example.
yeah.
Keep diversifying your content.
Spread your content.
Doesn't matter whether it's good or not, I guess. But like, I mean,
don't like it, don't watch it. Someone else will.
It's just like, well, we're just going to keep making it, just changing it, so you never feel you're that tired about it, and you'll never feel like you're watching the same thing over and over again. But I think, yeah, ultimately things will move on. But like, I don't see like a bigger fish coming along and eating the superhero genre. It's more like
new. Yeah.
The superhero genre will see what other trends are coming along and just subsume that and then make that part of the machine in the same way they've been doing with talented directors for ages. Like, oh, you're coming up with an interesting thing over there. Why don't you come work for us and you can build, and then you make us bigger and stronger.
People come in and they come back out. Directors come in and come back out. But we sort of mentioned a few times that it's obviously they are films and it's its own genre, but it's its own new format of entertainment almost, of how it's all connected. Yeah. And everyone's trying to outdo each other with what universe they can link together.
Yeah. It's almost its own type of media.
I will be slightly depressed, but interested to see in 10 years what the state of it is. Because I don't think I would have predicted this much 10 years ago.
Well, I think it is like watching the economy in a way. We're in like we're like in the high 80s at this point. I think we're in like the decadent. We're like 1986, and I feel like the 1987 crash maybe around the corner somewhere. Not a complete wipeout, not 2008, but like a reawakening, a cold slap in the face.
Well, yeah, we don't really have an answer, but definitely an interesting conversation. Our news, sorry guys, is probably going to always be very much dominated by superhero films. Much as we try to keep talking about loads of different interesting things, it's just everywhere. And we sort of are still kind of interested in covering it. This next one's from Daniel, who says, "Hi guys, saw your TikToks of the quickfire games a while ago, and I've recently got round to listening to your podcast.
Good.
I love the Oscars and loved your Oscars episode.
Oh, great,
Go back and listen to it. That's why we do games at the end to get you to come and break it up into
join us.
I too saw Empire of Light at the London Film Festival, and I have the same feelings towards the film as George. Olivia Colman is great, but it's not her best performance. And whilst Roger Deakins is one of the best cinematographers ever, the film just didn't showcase how amazing he can be. I thought the film was nice, but with Sam Mendes and Deakins coming off the back of 1917, I think everyone was expecting something amazing, but the film just didn't deliver for me. Have a great day, Daniel."
Thank you, Daniel. You have a great day too. Look, Empire of Light is out in January.
Yeah,
everyone go see it. I'm
check out George's review on the channel.
I feel the same way, which is it's weak. It's a shame.
This next one is from Lucy, who says, "Hi, love the podcast."
Thank you.
I was browsing films the other day, and I randomly decided to watch Speed, an old Die Hard style action movie with Sandra Bullock and Keanu Reeves, if you didn't know, with no context. The villain was very cheesy, but overall, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. It didn't end where I expected to, and was a pretty fun watch. It made me realize how I think I've enjoyed pretty much everything I've seen Sandra Bullock in. I think she's a good all-rounder, and there's just something nice and cozy about her. Love the podcast, and I can't wait for the next episode. Thanks, Lucy.
Very nice email. Have you seen Speed?
Not properly, no. Ages ago in the background, I've seen images of it.
I've seen it probably once 10 years ago, but I remember having a really good time. I'm thinking, it's like Die Hard, it's just a solid, great, dependable film to rely on. Dennis Hopper's great in that. Jeff Daniels is great in that. If you think Sandra Bullock's great in everything, though, try Speed 2, Cruise Control, where it's speed on a boat. Okay?
I still think you can put Sandra Bullock anywhere, and she'll do you. You put it up in Space and Gravity. You can put it down in Miss Congeniality. You can turn up The Heat in The Heat with Melissa McCarthy.
Is that good? I've heard that's good.
The Heat, is it just Heat or The Heat? No, it's The Heat, because Heat's a different film.
Heat's the Al Pacino.
It's a different film about policemen. That I remember putting on, being very cynical, like, oh, it's going to be another sort of Paul Feig-esque comedy. And me and Talia were just laughing.
Yeah, I've heard it's good.
Arses off.
Right, okay.
I do want to say I might be fatigued on the Melissa McCarthy comedy style now.
Right, the shtick.
But I was howling with laughter.
Do you know what puts me off? Is that The Heat is 2 hours long. And I look at that film like that should be 90 minutes.
Yeah, it's a longer one. Yeah.
But okay.
It's kind of like The Other Guys.
Okay, yeah. Got it.
Right. Might not be your thing.
Sure.
This last one is from James, who says, "Hi, chaps.
Hey, James.
Hope all is well. Firstly, I must say I do really love your podcasts and look forward to them every week. I really enjoy listening to them whilst cooking, which seems to be a theme amongst other fans.
Yes, you're one of the only people who is still cooking.
It is.
We got rid of that ages ago.
I wanted to ask, having listened to Mark Kermode's review of Living, where it seems the film was particularly poignant to him because of the themes of not having infinite time to do/achieve things in life. I noticed you didn't really touch on this as much as he did. So, do you think you were slightly outside the film's true target audience, perhaps? perhaps. I would also like to ask if there is a film you had seen where you were younger but didn't really get, but have watched when older and enjoyed it more or were more impacted by. We have answered this question a couple of times, so let's ignore that bit. Please go back. We've answered that about, you know, growing up and realising different things about film. Sorry, my WhatsApp's going off. But he says, best James, P.S. I've written in before, but it's just an extremely common name. Tell me about it. But yeah, just George, a comment on Living about...
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. So Living, which we reviewed for the first part of the London Film Festival one, that idea that is a different cross-section of the audience, a different demographic of the audience, responding to it differently than... It's a very... I think it's great if a film can draw out different responses from different parts of the audience. And I think it makes total... I haven't listened to Kermode's review, but it makes total sense that Kermode, a man in his mid to late 50s, would be feeling a certain way after watching that film. But what I would say, having seen Living as well, is that there are still moments, you know, I watched that film as a son and with a father, whereas some people would watch that, maybe Mark Kermode watches that as a father with the son, right?
Completely.
And your relation, he might see Bill Nye as a proxy for himself, whereas we would see it as a proxy for people we love who are older. Different reactions, but same kind of feeling, which is great. Go on.
No, you finish your point, because mine's silly.
Mine's, okay, good. Yeah. I will get my stories. And I did say this the last time we answered this question, and I'm just going to say it again because everyone needs to go do their homework. Because when we do talk about the before films, we should ring a bell every time I mention it.
Yeah.
But what I do love about that trilogy is the whole point that those films are locked in time.
George's favourite trilogy.
Thank you. We will cover them. James is doing his homework. But how I feel about it has changed how I've got older. So how I felt about the first one is different now to when I was the same age as those characters. I'm now older. And my relationship to the second one, where the characters are similar to that age.
When you watch it again in 20 years.
And I know in 10 or 15 years' time, my relationship, without saying anything about it, to Before Midnight will be different. And then I will look back and my relationship...
So you're going to be yapping on about these for 50 years.
But that is why those films are so good, because they resonate on different levels depending on where you are in the time frame of your life and where those films exist as well, locked. So just a weekly reminder to go do your homework, everyone. And we'll do those at some point. And
bear with me.
When you do your homework.
Now for my silly point after a really nice, profound comment.
Thank you.
Is that, you know, like when you get a dog or like you have a baby, I don't have a baby, but like all of a sudden like anything happening to a dog on screen, you're like, oh no, I can't even, or like if you ask a new parent about like a child getting kidnapped, they go, oh my God, I can't even, the idea of it, but it's like, I can't see a dog or an elephant or any animal on screen get hurt, and I actively will take points off a film if it kills the dog because it's just so distressing to me.
Yeah, but how does that relate to your...
Well, you're saying if you're a certain age, you've experienced certain things, that makes you connect with it a different way.
So if
the dog dies, forget about it. I'm in bits.
Yeah.
That's all.
You have to be a pretty stupid film to just...
You have to be a pretty stupid person to take
John
that
Wick,
seriously.
though, I guess it makes it because of a point. But
I don't even want to think about it.
George, I
just
don't want
can't.
to talk about it.
I just can't. I'm ending the email segment
All right.
here. Thank you very much for writing in. We absolutely love your emails. And if you wanted to send us your thoughts, your theories...
I've got a thought for George. The before films are shit.
Yeah,
Stop
please
banging on about them.
Send it in. You can do. To hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com. And we will do our best to read it out on the show.
We will. Thank you. As ever. We do genuinely love reading them out.
The best. You know, I sometimes feel like when we play our games, it's almost like revising for our own podcast. It's like we're testing, do you know this and who is in it and what year? I get triggered sometimes from like doing French vocab with my dad. Like, crayon, I don't know.
Je jouais, tu jouais, je voudrais.
Yeah. This is a new game
for
us, okay? So... I'm going to, as always, it's going to be a sort of listicle quick fire. I'm going to read you a film, and you have to tell me who directed it.
Oh.
It's just going to be, so it'll be a bunch of different directors, but I'll just list you a film, and you have to say blah, blah, blah.
You've upped the difficulty then.
A little bit.
That's niche. All right.
I'm trying to keep it fairly interesting. And
sound a bit more confident when you say that.
This is for people who really know their films, okay? You have to guess the movie director from their film. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Knocked Up.
Judd Apatow.
Titanic.
James Cameron.
Dallas Buyers Club.
Jean-Marc Vallée.
Yes. American Psycho.
Mary Harron.
Yes. The Empire Strikes Back.
Irving Kershner.
Yes. It Happened One Night.
Billy Wilder.
Frank Capra. Batman Returns.
Tim Burton.
Yes. Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Wes Anderson.
Yes. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Francis Ford Coppola.
Yes. Die Another Day.
Ooh.
You know the film. Lee Tamahori. The Mummy, 1999.
Stephen Sommers.
Yes. You would know that one.
Yeah.
Super random.
It's not Steven Soderbergh.
No. Summers, not Spielberg.
Not Steven Sondheim.
Summers.
Thank you.
Right, that's round 1.
Okay,
ready?
all right.
You did very well.
Oh, I like this game.
Okay.
Okay.
Round 2. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Minority Report.
Steven Spielberg.
Yes. Boogie Nights.
Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yes. Donnie Darko.
Richard Kelly.
Yes. Serpico. Sidney Lumet.
Oh,
Men in Black.
that is Barry Levinson. No, Barry Levinson. No, Barry Sonnenfeld.
Yes. 28 Days Later.
Danny Boyle.
Yes. The Patriot.
Michael Bay.
No. Roland Emmerich, but close.
Close, yeah.
X-Men 2.
X-Men 2, Bryan Singer.
Yes. A Good Year.
Ridley Scott.
Yes. Master and Commander, Far Side of the World.
Peter Weir.
Yes. Mission Impossible 1.
Brian De Palma.
Yes. I didn't think you'd get that one because it's kind of random. Like Brian De Palma, Mission Impossible 1.
Thank you.
Well done. You did very, very well. That was the new game. Guess the movie director from. I think you missed 2, maybe 2 or 3.
Yeah, I think I dropped 1 each round. I think there.
I tried to throw it. Like I said to you before, I've got some ones in there where you definitely know all of those films.
I bet you didn't expect me to know the Peter Weir one.
I didn't think you'd know the director of Mummy 99.
Yeah,
Even though we both loved that film, but
Yeah.
you did really well. And then Die Another Day is like super. Hoary.
Good game.
Thank you.
I want to do that again.
We should do it again. Let us know if you enjoyed it. But thank you very much. That is all we have for you today. Thank you very much for listening to this episode of podcast. Don't forget, we publish new episodes of this show every single Wednesday.
Exactly, guys. And you know the drill. Sometimes we'll release extra content as well, but also follow us on Instagram and TikTok. Like, by now, if you go on Instagram, you'll see stuff from the Crown premiere.
Yeah, we're going to be there with black tie.
Suited and booted.
If you haven't seen it, we'll be all suited.
Wearing the actual crown.
I'll be
and
arm in arm with Elizabeth Debicki and Imelda Staunton. We'll have the champagne round like this. We'll go,
Dominic West will be going, George. I'll say, Dominic, I don't have the time.
Sorry,
I'm
mate.
so busy. I'm so sorry.
Can't come on the show. Go check that out.
Yeah, please go check it out. And as ever, guys, we really appreciate your support. Give us a like, a subscribe, a comment, a thumbs up.
Tell a friend about it.
Tell a friend. Share it to a friend. Send a link. Shout about it on your social media. We really, really appreciate it. And we love hearing your correspondence come in. It's why we do it.
See you next week.
Thank you.